Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewelry you come from. You da you and me da me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean? Jump and shout all over the nation. We're breaking out with a new creation.
On our visit to Miami, our Belize Watch team sat down with Dr. Errol Gabb. He recalled with fondness his childhood in Belize City. He also shared his experience as a young child during Hurricane Hattie. Gabb told our team he is a part of a cadre of Belizeans who are working to make their communities better and at the same time reaching out to Belize to make a difference. He spoke of the migration path to the U.S. We will have that conversation after we hear from our partners. Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, the Bari, Shell Belize, and the National Gas Company.
The facilities at NGC have been engineered to the highest standards. No other LPG facility in this country has the technology, health and safety considerations, and accurate industry-accepted measurement technology as does NGC. Under the watchful eye of the control room, Bowsers are loaded with LPG to deliver to the 2 depots inland and to the many bulk storage facilities owned by customers all over the country, where the wholesale price is one single levelized national price. Now that NGC has entered the market, competition exists for the provision of LPG both at the wholesale level for acquisition and importation through a transparent tendering system and downstream by more than 30 retailers throughout the country. The National Gas Company of Belize, fueling Belize forward.
Since 2008, the Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust has created opportunities for Belizeans to develop themselves and their communities. The Trust employs tools that are intuitive, collaborative, and accessible so that every Belizean is empowered to achieve their full potential. Over 200,000 Belizeans have been impacted because of our various initiatives. The Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, empowering Belizeans of today to create the Belize of tomorrow.
We are the Bari, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Bari. Get more? Be less.
Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell. And we have the honor and privilege of speaking with Dr. Errol Gabb, a Belizean at birth, living in the United States and practicing in the United States, but still a Belizean at heart as well, right? Doc, did I describe you correctly?
Well described. Okay. Yeah. I take pride to actually have this opportunity to talk with you, Renee, and I think this is just for us in our experience in the diaspora to be able to expose other Belizeans in other places, not necessarily in Belize City alone, or in Belize, the country, but around the world, that there is a cadre of Belizeans that are out there trying to make communities better. And how can we bring those experiences back home? You know, so that's where I'm at with this, and it's great to have this opportunity to talk with you as one of the bigger personalities in Belize, Belize doing this. So I for the most part, I've been fairly secluded in some aspects from a lot of the Belize experiences, because I live in communities sometimes where we don't have a lot of Belizeans around. So I try to gravitate to where the Belizeans are to share my culture and stuff with them.
But Dr. Errol Gabb, I could hazard a guess as to where you are from, because we haven't spoken about what part of Belize City. You're born in Belize City, right? Belize City, yes. But can I hazard a guess? Petticoat Alley? Are you connected to Petticoat Alley?
All Gabbs are connected to Petticoat Alley. Actually, it seems like there's a common thread in Petticoat Alley, and all my dad used to talk about, although he did not grow up in Petticoat Alley per se, he grew up to some degree on Barracks Road. Okay. And so his dad, Errol Gabb, who used to be involved with the post office, I think he was superintendent at the post office at one point, was connected directly to Petticoat Alley, and he decided to move out in one of those Turton's homes. Back in the days, there was a lot of Turton's homes around, and that was on Barracks Road on the canal side, and that's where the family kind of gravitated to. That's the north side Gabb, as a matter of fact. You know there's a north side Gabb and a south side Gabb. Right. The George Gabb and his crew is on the south side, and those are the north side Gabb. So he happens to stray away from the north side to go to the south side and pick up my mom. And that was a no-no at the time. You understand what was going on with Belize? North side was separated from south side by the big bridge. Right. And so that was like a little no-no to do, to go south side and pick up a woman. So, so that's the connection. Definitely Petticoat Alley. And all Gabbs are related in Belize, by the way.
Yeah, because I knew some Gabbs from Petticoat Alley. That's why I asked.
Cameron
Gabb, particularly Cameron Gabb.
Cameron Gabb
and his children and so.
He's my granduncle. Yes, he's my granduncle. And so all his kids are obviously my cousins. They would be second cousins, actually. Yeah.
You were born then in Belize City.
Belize City Hospital, by the way. Belize City Hospital over the Caribbean Sea. So I always tell people in a joking manner, I was born in the sea, because it hang right over the sea, the Caribbean Sea, back in the days, right? So the wards, they call them maternity wards back then, delivered by matrons, right, was sort of jutting out over the Caribbean Sea.
Now, how many years ago was that? I mean, I could ask you your age because
sure.
you know.
I don't have no problem with age. If one gal asked me on the first date, I might have a problem with that. But no, I'm 61 years old. Okay. Yeah, I was born in 1960. And so I was a little kid with Hurricane Hattie, very small, held up for about 6 hours in my mom's arm in Barrel Boom.
What's the story? Tell me the story that she gave you about how she spent Hurricane Hattie.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting story. We hear stories all the way back, and they always used to tell us, their horror stories of Hurricane Hattie. So everybody should know about Hurricane Hattie, right? So they were telling me, and I think it wasn't registered at the time, but Hurricane Hattie is a Cat 5, Category 5 hurricane, and there were winds up to 175 miles an hour. At the time that they knew that the storm was coming, and they've had some experiences in 1931 from another hurricane where they were now more open to move away from the coast. Because now, remember, most of the people lived in Belize City right on the coastline. They decided to move inland away from the coast after they experienced in 1931, where there was a tidal wave that washed away a lot of people. So their house, our family house in Belize City at the time, had already moved off the stilt supports, had already moved off the support and was actually leaning on the side. They were able to escape just prior to that happening, and when they came back, they found it to be the case. But they were able to escape with a Land Rover. My dad worked for marketing board, and they used to have all these Land Rovers back then. So he had to come, he had to take care of things at marketing board before he could left work. Once he secured everything at work, he picked up the family, and we went up to my grandmother's farm, my maternal grandmother's farm, up in Barrel Boom. Okay. And the idea there was because you could go to higher ground. we would be able to sustain anything like tidal wave, floods, whatever. So we went up the river to Barrelboom, and they were sitting, we were all in this house that was on probably maybe two feet off the ground. There were little stairs up, and then it was on supports, and then you're up into the house. And so they were there, and the wind started whipping up. Winds were getting stronger and stronger. They were feeling it coming heavier and heavier. And to the point where they start feeling the roof lifting, giving way. And when the roof started lifting, it was about maybe a third lifted off. They decided to run out of the house. And they bolted out of the house. They ran into a outhouse. And so...
With you in arms?
Me in arms, I'm telling you. There's no question. I was the little one, right? So the little one was held up. Mom had to, we all ran out. Now, I had two other siblings at the time, two older sisters. So we all ran into this little outhouse. We were battered in that outhouse for 6 hours or so or more. When the eye passed over, calm, the water came up to over mom's knees because the water was coming so fast that you couldn't even drain fast enough to
Barrelboom, you know.
Yeah. You couldn't even drain fast enough. So mom was standing up with me in the arms, brave enough to stand there and not move because the water was coming up, obviously, and the water was trying to drain fast, but not fast enough. And with the two other kids, Dad was there also next to us, and then grandmother and another couple cousins and stuff. We all fitting into this little small outhouse. And the outhouse didn't give it up. It was wonderful. It stayed there. The eye passed over. Calmness. Nobody moved. Because again, they had to learn from 1931. When that calm come, you're not going away. Stay put because you're going to get whopped from the other side. So as experience tells, they stayed the course. They start getting hit from the other side. The water slowly start receding at this time now because of the directional of the wind. I guess the wind, slowly start receding. And they were there for about 6 hours getting whopped with this hurricane. And so they've learned from that experience. They were able to get back into, they actually moved from the house, went back in there. The roof was already almost gone, was lifted off. But the rain had stopped, so they were able to camp out a little bit in the house there in Barrelboom. And this house is no longer there. I think just the little supports are there, but it's right at the corner of where the racetrack was, right on the corner of the racetrack in Barrelboom, and the main road, right at that corner. And if you could still go there, you could see those little supports there. But that's the house we actually, or the piece of property that we got saved in. And
if you were in that amount of water, that's the higher part of Barrelboom. Because the river, you're onto the river, right? That's the higher part of Barrelboom.
All the way down at the bottom, and so
you had water way up there. You could imagine what was going on down by the river.
Water was coming down. The rain was amazing.
Hattie changed the course of Belizean history forever, right? Because after 1961, when the U.S. opened its doors to migration from Belizeans who were affected from the hurricane, a lot of people took advantage of that, went behind, left children to send for them later, and that kind of thing.
It's funny that you say that, because I always explain that to a lot of Americans that don't know much about Belize. So I tell them, listen, Florida, for instance, you'd expect to have a lot more Belizeans, but the initial migration paths did not take us to Florida. Exactly. So because of the hurricane and the paths that created around the hurricane time, was more of a land drive to California, which was our easiest land drive at the time. Nobody were taking planes and coming into Florida as much as they were taking cars and driving up the road. And then gradually families start bringing other families, and that's the way our migration sort of pathway developed. And so, with time, people obviously start spreading out and stuff like that. But I try to give him an understanding of why Belize is not there. I said, well, there's a Belizean restaurant in Florida we could go to. I say, you go to California, there's several Belizean restaurants. If we were to look at other places like New York and Chicago as big industrial centers, remember they were industrial centers, so they were requiring either manual labor or people that were skilled in construction. And those places attracted those people in those ways, and other service industries, because it spurred off other service connected industries like home care, elderly care, and those other things, nursing care, and those other things. And that's where you see some of those Belizeans going to those other locations.
So 1961 hurricane really changed the face, the population, the face of Belize City, of Belize country, basically.
Correct. And the demographics changed, obviously did, because for the most part, we're a multicultural community in Belize. And at the time, I would say that from a standpoint, even religion-wise, I think Protestants were a little bit more. That is, Anglicans and Methodists over, say, Roman Catholics. Were more the majority. There was a shift in terms of, or Afro-Belizean mostly moving from Belize, and they were mostly migrating, and then now we had an inflow of new people in the general area. Right? We have Salvadorans, we have Guatemalans, we have more Mexicans coming in, and obviously there were old Mexicans from the days of the wars.
Guerra de Castas.
There you go, Guerra de Castas, yeah. So that we get a lot of the mestizos coming primarily from the Yucatan area and South Yucatan area as they were being pushed away. Initially, there was incentive, I guess, by the British government. Remember, we were a British colony.
They wanted to settle.
They loved the labor. Remember, now we're emancipation of slavery, and so we're looking for cheap labor. As a British colonist, I would look to a source, right? And so that was an easy source. There were refugees coming from their war, and where essentially there was a war between the campesinos, the Indians. They were considered campesinos then, and the more European masters, a Mexican government.
Actually, the caste war was the Mayans revolting against the Spaniards, and if you were Spanish or half Maya, you were an outcast because you had mixed with the Spaniards.
Exactly.
Right? Once you were mixed, you had to go. Once you were pure Spanish, you had to go. You had to be pure Maya, right? So that's why it was called Guerra de Castas, caste war.
Exactly. Right. So there was this whole cultural mix, and so we were, at least Belize was a product, particularly in the northern part of Belize.
Those refugees.
Well, yeah, for that, and some moved to the northern Keys, as we know, right? Ambergris Key and Kikaka, and there's by filtration. And so, and with time, obviously, they were involved with fishing off the coast, with lobstering and fisheries, and in the north, involved with the sugarcane business that was highly controlled by the British at the time, right? Tate and Lyle and all these other big old British.
In the northern part. Obviously, you know your country, Doc.
So,
but
immersed in some of the aspects of the culture and the history, because when you grow up and you're schooled in Belize too, I'll tell you, Belizeans in general, and I hope it's still the same way, we do have a good agricultural base. And some people say it's because the British were there, but I think we have been able to maintain a level of education for our kids that are made available from early on. And so I just hope kids are taking advantage of it, like we used to take advantage of it. We were joking about student companion earlier, but we were exposed to a lot early on, although we didn't have TV, as we said, and so we were learned to read and to find aspects of how can we know better about our culture. And we always debate about it because a lot of the books were written by British. Yeah. We were British, we were considered subjects at the time, right? I had a British passport when I came to this country, and so they control what we read in many ways to some degree, right? That we were exposed to things, The Americans, by its sphere of influence, does have a lot of influence in Belize. As we mentioned before, that I would take time during breaks that we go up to Ladyville where my grandfather's farm was. Errol Gabb, he had a big farm up there in Ladyville, and I would go and I would read, you said Reader's Digest and Newsweek and Time Magazine and Life Magazine, which had a full of colors,
So that's what you remember as a young boy growing up in Belize, going to Ladyville, going to your uncle's grandfather's farm, and really. Yeah. What part of Ladyville was his farm located?
It was just north of the airport cutoff. So there was the old road. I don't know if you remember the old road. Well, that old road was where the farm was. So you had to go to the right after you pass the cutoff for the airport. And as you veer to the right, that old road, like midway through that old road, the farm was on the right-hand side of the road.
That would have been in the area where I think I am living right now, which is the Lake Garden area. More than likely that was it, where you turn right on the old road and you continue on the old road.
I think it was bought out by the Hendersons. I can't remember the name of the Hendersons.
I'm not sure who bought it out. Yeah. But I know in that whole area where when the first cable and wireless station was established in 1959, when Princess Margaret visited Belize, after Princess Margaret visited Belize in 1955, 1959, by then Cable and Wireless had already established the first wireless communication system between Belize and Great Britain in that same area, where they had about 200 little towers and what have you. So, and that lasted right through until 1979. But that's another story. I want to hear your story. So you had fun growing up in Belize as a young boy?
Fun. Listen, I always tell people that you don't have to have TV. Coming right back to the TV thing again. But growing up in Belize, I grew up in a neighborhood at George and Orange Street, personally. Okay. Yeah, my dad grew up in Barracks Road, but I personally grew up on George and Orange Street, and I was in the middle of action. There was a club down the street where they had its own nightlife going on. What's the name of this club, though? But they used to have parties there Friday night, Saturday night, sometimes even Sunday. Close to
the rooftop club, right?
Rooftop club, exactly, right. And then all the trucks used to stop right on that street on George Street. That used to come from Barrel Boom, from Mascal, from Bermuda Landing, Rancho Dolores, all these different places out. They used to stop right there. And then, because it was like a block from the canal side and then another block to Albert Street. Mm-hmm. So they used to do all their little shopping and stuff, gather up their stuff to take back to. So there was always action in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. The neighbors, we were very close. There were even fight between some neighbors, but we were very close. And all products, again, Hurricane Hattie, because some people did not even have formidable structures after Hattie. They were living basically with board houses in some of the areas, with yards still open because the houses were knocked down. And so we used to in those open areas we used to play marble, we used to play tap, the girls would play hopscotch. So all of these things were going on in the hood, right? So there was never a dull moment. We were always entertained. Yeah. We used to play football on the streets in the neighborhood. The police had to chase us sometime because they told us not to play ball in the streets, and they would take our ball away. So we had to jump fence and throw the ball over so that they didn't catch our ball, So we found everything. We used to play handball in the streets. There was always action. Down a block away on the canal side, there was a place called Havana Club. Yes, and there used to be a boxing gym there. Right, and we used to go down there and learn to box because some of our guys in the neighborhood were good boxers. We used to have this guy named Henry Gill, was one of Belize's better boxers, and he was very skilled. He actually migrated to Chicago later on, and I think he passed away recently, not so long ago. But these are guys that we were around. There was always action. There was a little store down the street called Pit Soul. Pit Soul used to sell boiled egg. You know what I mean? And sometime late at night, the guys were hanging out. And you wanted to hang out. Your mom tell you, bring yourself upstairs. You can't hang out with the guys. You got homework to do. Da. So you wanted to hang out because these were all the guys in the neighborhood, right? And so they would go down there at late hours to eat boiled egg because he used to have a big bottle full with boiled eggs. And late at night, I don't know if the boys were smoking weed or whatever. But they get hungry at night. They want to eat their boiled egg, you know. So, and then around the corner was Miss Figueroa. Figa used to make panades, beans panades and fish panades. And so late hours, she was making her panades. It was always an action zone.
Then Carter's custom upholstery in the area too, as well, right?
Exactly. There was never a dull moment. And I don't know, you know, the influences were there that you could have gone astray. Totally gone astray and not probably pursue your high school or whatever. But I must say that the parents, and I must shout out to them, that they were there behind us constantly.
When we come back, Gabb speaks with us about his mother's determination to make a better life for her family and her emphasis on education. He also told us what influenced him to be a doctor. We take a break to say thank you to the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations.
The future is ours. This is Belize. We welcome you back home, if only for a visit. The government of Belize is committed to mobilizing a productive partnership with you, the diaspora. With that in mind, the government has created the Diaspora Relations Unit within the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations. The general objectives of the unit are to raise Belize's profile on the international stage, grow the economy by increasing exports and attracting inward investments, promote trade, provide information and support to Belizeans abroad, encourage expertise exchange and identify opportunities for philanthropy. Developing an effective relationship with each of you will offer a platform from which to showcase Belize's excellence and generate much-needed exchange of ideas and resources. Our vision: an inclusive and participatory Belizean society, where every Belizean contributes to national development and shares in the benefits thereof, notwithstanding place of residency. Composition of the unit: Ambassador for Diaspora Relations, non-resident, Senior Liaison Officer, Liaison Officer, Secretary, Office Assistant. Knowing and understanding you is crucial to engaging effectively. You must be involved and included in the development of our country. We will engage you through our registry, online outreach, other initiatives, and awareness campaigns tailored to bringing you back home while enjoying the benefits offered. Empowering our diaspora includes mobilizing the transfer of skills and resources. Government will empower this process by introducing special measures and programs in different fields of expertise. Dissemination of information is key and serves to heighten awareness of various products and services. Our website is one such example of empowering our Belizeans abroad. Through the website, valuable information will be shared worldwide with you, the members of the diaspora. Maintaining the connection is widely regarded as important for the development of our country. Staying connected will give you access to regularly updated news, relevant resources, learning and funding opportunities. We encourage you to stay connected to your home country by participating in programs designed to facilitate diaspora engagement. The interaction we have with you is only going to increase as technology and communications allow you to play a role without returning home. In addition to remittances, you have contributed generously to the Belizean community by donating food, clothing, education, and medical supplies. The Diaspora Relations Unit is committed to maintaining active connections with you as we continue to create positive changes in our country. We are always here for you. Visit our website at belizediaspora.bz or email us at diaspora.relations@tourism.gov.bz.
The facilities at NGC have been engineered to the highest standards. No other LPG facility in this country has the technology, health and safety considerations, and accurate industry-accepted measurement technology as does NGC. Under the watchful eye of the control room, Bowsers are loaded with LPG to deliver to the 2 depots inland and to the many bulk storage facilities owned by customers all over the country, where the wholesale price is one single levelized national price. Now that NGC has entered the market, competition exists for the provision of LPG both at the wholesale level for acquisition and importation through a transparent tendering system and downstream by more than 30 retailers throughout the country. The National Gas Company of Belize, fueling Belize forward.
Since 2008, the Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust has created opportunities for Belizeans to develop themselves and their communities. The trust employs tools that are intuitive, collaborative, and accessible so that every Belizean is empowered to achieve their full potential. Over 200,000 Belizeans have been impacted because of our various initiatives. The Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, empowering Belizeans of today to create the Belize of tomorrow.
We are the Barry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Barry. Get more? Be less.
Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell. Which high school did you go to?
I went to St. John's College. Yeah, but I went through I'm a Methodist by birth, growing up in the Methodist church. So we went to our Wesley school. We used to walk to school.
That wasn't far away.
Yeah, right on Albert Street. We started at Wesley school. We go to Wesley church. We go to the Wesley Upper in the back. Yes. And then because of this open scholarship, I got an opportunity to pick the school. At the time, the best high school at the time was St. John's. And so I took that and went with that. But it was just fun growing up in that neighborhood. There was always some level of excitement. I must put a plug in for Finnegan, because
Michael Finnegan.
Michael Finnegan, because I tell you, Michael Finnegan used to work at Hophius. My mom used to work at Hophius, Miss Helen Gabb.
I know your mom.
Yes. And so Finnegan at one point was working at Hophius. And so he used to work with my mom. And my mom used to say, because my mom left work late in the day. Yeah. She was the accountant. And so she left late in the day. She used to tell Finnegan, Finny, listen, stop at the house on your way down, because he used to always pass the house on Orange Street, going backwards towards the back where he lived, right? So he used to always stop there. And I tell you, he used to put some pressure on us. Make sure they get their homework done. And he used to be the enforcer. So he used to come by the house, the 3 boys, because I'm one of 5 siblings, right? The 3 boys were always put to the table and said, Finnegan used to come by. And he used to pinch me with his little finger. You know, he used to have that contracture at the arm. And he used to take and pinch me to say, hey, get your work done, concentrate. And it was there constantly being told by my mom to make sure I got my work done. You know what I mean? So we had a lot of good people in our lives, you know, in terms of making sure that we did not stray and go the other way. And it was very easy in the neighborhood because people and the neighbors used to smoke weed, they start doing other drugs, and the area start, going crazy.
The area started to change.
It did change.
Yeah.
It did change. But it was not necessarily a big positive change. It was going certainly in the opposite direction that my mom wanted to see it go. As a matter of fact, my mom was enforcing another way too, in the sense that she said, listen, we cannot continue to live in this neighborhood. It's gotten to the point where we need to move. And so I think I was about maybe 14 or 15 years old. We moved out to Barakat Street, which is in the Port Loyola area, or Queen Charlotte. We used to say Queen Charlotte area, and off of Farbers Road. And that area we moved to was just opening up. One of the earliest home off the main Farbers Road area there. And I tell you, she had gotten to the point where she told my dad, literally, if you want to stay there, you can stay there, but we're moving out. Yeah. We're going out to the neighborhood. So I think she had gotten to the point where she saw a change in the neighborhood, and she wanted to be on the forefront of making sure she provided the best environment for us. As we.
What do you think influenced the change that you are talking about? What influenced that? Whoa.
I think it's just a hate to use the word deterioration, but there was a change in the sense of maybe an infusion of people that were not serious about furthering their education and maybe looking at poor examples of not taking care of themselves, not seeing to uplift themselves and look to, part of it is education, but part of it is also ensuring that they are doing things good for the community. They were not working. Some of them were not even working or working at decent jobs, although there were jobs available. Some didn't want to work some of the harder jobs. I see, like some of the guys said, yeah, I'm not going to be a stevedore. Back then, a lot of people were taking jobs as laborers on the port or something like that. And even menial jobs were not paying well, but still, some of them still continue to do them. Like if you go work for one of those grocery store, just say moving the rice or moving the brown sugar. There used to be these big sacks of brown sugar, and you are helping as a laborer, so to speak, in one of these stores. You were getting $20 a week, 20 Belize dollars a week. That was like, for them, like big deal. Like, but I know you could do a lot more with $20, but maybe in the 60s or the 70s. That was the pay, So, but some of them were still willing to do that to at least uplift themselves. They had an opportunity to further their education. I guess they would, and so some of those avenues. And I think, in general, our education system was good in trying to allow people that were not strictly academics, that could do, say, some of the skills.
It was the Belize Technical College, for example.
Exactly, that's what I was getting to. So they were allowing it. And there were a lot of opportunities to further and make yourself available to develop a skill set. And some of those skill sets were plumbing, some of them were electrical, some of them were building construction, some of them were automotive, learning how to operate on a car. And I think that was a big facet to bring people that were not strictly, they're not going to do law, they're not going to do medicine, they're not going to be a scientist, they're not going to do, some heavy economics or, a professor somewhere dealing with business and business development somewhere. They did not see themselves doing that, but they're not necessarily out of the woods. Some of the best jobs in most developed communities is by developing these skill sets to provide a structure and the infrastructure for the community.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was maybe not totally appreciated over the years is the fact that we're all different. Correct. And that you cannot just have a system of one size fits all. It has to be tailor-made so that those who are technical-minded go to a technical stream, and those who are academic in an academic stream, and that sort of thing. We cannot say we must all study academia because that's the way to go.
But St. John's used to have an academic. So when I went to St. John's, I was academic, but there was also industrial. Yeah. And they used to call it, so you're 4A, like I was in Farm 4A, and then there's Farm 4B, B being in industrial, and A being academics. But you have the other extreme of saying, you develop a skill set. I could teach you carpentry. I could teach you, yeah, exactly. I could teach you plumbing. I could teach you all these things, and all these things are crucial. But we have this way in Belize, which I say is a funny part of our culture, that we say, if you read or self-read, or you find out about building your own skill sets, you become a pro at it. So I'm going to fix your car, right? But I don't know nothing about your Toyota Camry, for instance, but I'm the mechanic, right? But I'm going to figure out what's wrong with your car. And so a lot
based on my general knowledge.
Yes, based on my general knowledge. And but they don't pursue it to the nth degree to say, I could really develop some skill set, but let me work by your car. I know exactly what's wrong with your car. Everybody have a skill set to say, I can do this, but they don't really do. You know what I mean? So we have to take it to that next step.
Now the direct question to you now. What made you decide to become a doctor?
I know. Yeah, I know. So.
Where did that inspiration come from?
That's true. I think from early on. So as a teenager, just an example, right? So we used to play cowboys and Indians, right? Pop shot. You have your gun, you play, you shoot at you shoot back, you dodge, and you go down. You know, it's funny, but I always said, give me a medic pack, because I'm ready for action now. Give me a ratatata gun. You remember they call it a
ratatata gun, the machine gun, the Leron thing on it.
Exactly. And I don't care about no pop this and pop that. I want to shoot you down, and I have my medic pack. And I'm ready to go. I take care of whoever, is down. So we used to play these things. The neighborhood was vibrant, as I told you. And I saw myself swaying towards the stethoscope and everything else that goes along with that. And then there were other people along the way that kind of was, we used to have one of the doctors, forgetting his name now, but that used to be an OBGYN, and I used to hear so much about him that he was even, I think he was like up in his 70s or 80s, and he was still working in Belize. And I was like, hey, that's interesting. You could, at any age in your life, you could be of service, right? And how can I serve best? And, sometimes we listen to different philosophies. And being that I grew up kind of in a Methodist church, and I used to have to go to Sunday school, and I had to go to church afterwards, we used to hear about some of the philosophy of John Wesley, and he used to always say, and I always remember some of the quotation, that you have to prepare yourself well to give back to the community. And one of the best things is to prepare yourself is to educate yourself, get out there. It almost sounds selfish initially, right? Be selfish first before I can give back to whoever I can give it to.
Love your neighbor as yourself. You never say more than yourself. So learn to love yourself, then you could love the neighbor.
Exactly. Almost so selfish. But he was so much of an emphasis of preparing himself to be of use and value to somebody else. And so I said, what can I learn? And so what came naturally to me, actually, although I always had an interest in medicine, what came naturally to me in terms of my grades and my, I guess just by, I don't know, God's will or whatever, was math and physics. I don't know why, it just came naturally to me. Maths and physics, not biology and chemistry. It came natural to me. And it was like God-given gift, whatever. I like the light turn on, like boom. And so I was very, very good doing that. And hence, I found that I had a natural flow with that. And that's what, when we had some universities interviewing in Belize, looking at recruiting students in the Caribbean, I guess, and Belize, I found that it was a natural thing for me to get into. Initially, as a stepping stone. Not necessarily I was going to stop there. I didn't see myself stopping there. And that was good that it was a stepping stone, so at least I could work as an engineer. And so I did a undergrad in engineering, in chemical engineering, which at least had some chemistry in it, so that when I was ready to try to get into med school, I at least have a way. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it worked out well because I worked for about 5 years as an engineer. And during doing that, I was able to go to some night classes to get the biology requirements to take the MCAT, which is the entrance exam for medical school. And actually, I was out of the field for a little bit, so or the community, the college community for a little bit, because I didn't know what the competition was. So I went in and I said, let me do some classes and stuff like that. But when I took the MCAT, then my grades were good enough to apply to a bunch of schools. And then
where did you end up?
I ended up at University of Pittsburgh, School of Medicine, yeah. And they were, I got accepted by several schools. I was surprised, actually, that I got accepted by several schools, but I didn't know what the competition was. So, and then Emory University, I didn't have to move, actually, but Emory had a problem. They couldn't find my grades, for instance, one time. And I said, I'm not so sure about this school, although I was living in Atlanta at the time, where Emory was. And I said, you know what, I felt good. I just went in my soul. I said, I felt good when I went to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh was number 10 school, one of the top 10 school at the time. Yeah. And so I was accepted there, and the experience was great. I mean, I can't ask for anything more.
And I'm sure you found many times to go to Three Rivers Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. No, listen, this is a very good sporting community. The people from Pittsburghers, they're very good at their sports teams. Yeah. At the time, their biggest team was actually their hockey team. But we didn't grow up in hockey. But I'm telling you, the excitement from what brought to the community was amazing. So I'd spent 4 years at Pittsburgh School of Medicine, and then I was actually offered to do an MD PhD program. But the fact that I had 5 years of working as an engineer, I was like, do I do another 5 years or 3 years to get my PhD? I said, no, I need to do my residency. I need to start getting back to work. So I did a residency, a 4-year residency in Atlanta. I came back to Atlanta to do a residency, and in OBGYN. And I've been doing OB now for 28 years.
Okay. Now, before I ask you how you got into the Miami area, let me find out from you how you got to the United States in the first place. What prompted you to move from Belize to the United States, yes. And when did that happen?
Yes. So part of that was that once I was finished with Sixth Form in Belize, so I did Sixth Form in Belize, technical, right? Belize Technical College. I started seeing, looking for an opportunity to try to go to University of West Indies. That was actually my first option, interest. And so was trying, it's very political with getting access to the university. It's also on a system, I guess, how many countries, what's your population?
Quota.
Yeah, okay, yeah, quota system. So I found that some of my friends or who I graduated with got access to go to the University of West Indies. So I said, well, what's the other option? Maybe I had a sister already living in New York. And I said, well, maybe I should look at maybe some colleges. And so happens at the same time, these colleges were coming down, visiting Belize. And they were recruiting the students. So, and then I thought about it, Belize Technical, well-prepared, physics, math, chemistry, biology. I had an experience in all those areas, although my strongest subjects, as I mentioned before, was math and physics. And I said, well, maybe I should just do the engineering because I'm not going to be an American citizen. I don't have a green card, whatever. I can't just go right into a medical school there. That's a barrier right there. That's a big barrier. Yeah. They're going to select, for their medical school, you're going to select the citizen first, and then you're going to select somebody with a green card holder. They would not select a foreigner just going into medical school, just because it's very competitive and the options are very limited. So I said, all right, maybe I could do engineering. And so my parents' help, I had connection with the Methodist church. I stayed actually for the first year and a half actually, at the Methodist Manse in this little town named Maplewood, New Jersey. Okay. Yeah, and I lived in the attic of this manse for about a year and a half when I started school there.
Education opportunities that rarely brought you to the United States, looking for education opportunities.
Yeah, I took advantage of that opportunity, and then I was able to, I bounced around a little bit for different homes. As a matter of fact, it's an interesting story. So while I was at the church, I met this gentleman that was used to be the ex-president of Equitable Insurance Company. Equitable Insurance Company was either the 5th largest insurance company in the country at the time, and he was the CEO. He was the ex-CEO of the company, now retired. So I met him at the church that I used to go to, and the family, and they say, "Oh, you're from Belize, da-da-da-da, I know you're a student," and stuff. He actually offered for me to stay at his house. He had this huge house in Maplewood, New Jersey, and he would commute to the city from New Jersey almost every day, and then sometimes he would go for weeks. He would sit on all these different boards of directors in New York. As a matter of fact, he was involved in bringing New York back from bankruptcy in 1975. Mm-hmm. So he was on that big panel of CEOs. And so I had that opportunity to spend about another year and a half at his home, taking care of his home, so to speak, while he was gone. Okay. So I had a room. I had a little bit of adjustment to the furnace because it was kept a little cooler than we were used to in Belize, you know. But I had access to that home for about a year and a half, and it was just people just coming and dropping in at the same time. It's like, wow, I'm so grateful, you know. And so I kept up with them for a while. They passed away now, but they were so instrumental too in helping. Used to get all those free tickets to anything. I used to go to the Carnegie Hall. He used to give me all of the.
You started adjusting to U.S. life, life in New York.
Yes, he was a big CEO, and he got all of these complimentary tickets to a lot of places. And I was there, was playing classical music in their home, and studying. I was in school, so I had to be pretty much studying and getting my degree. And I was able to get my degree in 4 years. And then I worked as an engineer for just 5 years with Kimberly-Clark. Okay. It was my first job. Yeah, Kimberly-Clark, large corporation. Yeah. They make tissue. They made. So I was in the division making Huggies, which is the diapers, baby diapers. And no, I'm delivering the babies to the diapers.
First you're taking diapers to the babies, now you're taking the babies
to the diapers. How ironic, right? The paradox of choices, I said. So so that was my experience.
Nothing was straight cut, right? I mean, you had to navigate, you had to change, you had to adapt, you had to do different things in order to make it.
Even in college, one of the social studies professor, I think he did one of the humanities course. He was a little comedian, but he was jokingly. But when you think of it, it's probably deeper than you say. He said, "How did your parents pay for you to come to school here? Because it's a very expensive private engineering school. It's called Stevens Institute of Technology." And he said, Are they growing ganja? Are they growing weed to pay for it? He was joking, but the other cut is like, how do you get to, how do you get to school here in America, with the expense of the tuition and stuff that we had to pay, So it was, it was eye-opening culturally.
Engineer turned doctor. All right.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you come with a set of experience, even when you do medicine, because then you're more balanced, I think. I don't come straight out of school. Most of the physicians that are being produced most of them. And it's good that Pittsburgh allowed a lot of older sort of applicants, so to speak. But a lot of them come straight up through the school system. So you go college, right? Straight to med school, straight to residency, and they don't have any work experience.
No work experience, that is true.
Outside of that, and and one of the biggest things that we've learned, and over the years I've learned even more, we continue to learn every day, is how to interact with the rest of the staff, and how do we formulate a team to provide better care for the patients. And so we find that some of them without experience, they have a difficult time doing that or dealing with that. And we also have to remember, too, so many things in America have turned to the sort of a corporate structure, a very corporate structure, that you have to understand how the needs of corporate world. You understand? So there are different things that they expect of people. They expect production. They expect this. They expect that, and stuff like that. And once you start working with an engineering firm, immediately you go into a corporate world that's very different than, say, you think of just dropping in and providing, saving the patient from dying. But then there's a corporate structure beyond that you still have to deal with. Everything have politics behind it. Every aspect of what we do is full of politics, and you have to know how to work with the politics and move with it, or else you won't survive in that kind of community.
We will wrap up our conversation with Dr. Errol Gabb as he speaks of the importance of the diaspora and Belizeans at home to remain engaged to improve the relationship between the two. We take a break to thank our partners: Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, the Bari, Shell Belize, and the National Gas Company.
The facilities at NGC have been engineered to the highest standards. No other LPG facility in this country has the technology, health and safety considerations, and accurate industry-accepted measurement technology as does NGC. Under the watchful eye of the control room, Bowsers are loaded with LPG to deliver to the 2 depots inland and to the many bulk storage facilities owned by customers all over the country, where the wholesale price is one single levelized national price. Now that NGC has entered the market, competition exists for the provision of LPG both at the wholesale level for acquisition and importation through a transparent tendering system and downstream by more than 30 retailers throughout the country.
The National Gas Company of Belize, fueling Belize forward.
Since 2008, the Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust has created opportunities for Belizeans to develop themselves and their communities. The Trust employs tools that are intuitive, collaborative, and accessible so that every Belizean is empowered to achieve their full potential. Over 200,000 Belizeans have been impacted because of our various initiatives. The Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, empowering Belizeans of today to create the Belize of tomorrow.
We are the Bari, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, Sa Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Bari. Get more? Be less.
Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell. What were your connections with Belize itself, the homeland?
Yeah. So I usually, even when I was in college, when I moved to come to college, about every 1 to 2 years I go back. You know, I don't leave Belize for too long without visiting and engrossing myself in Belizean culture and stuff like that. I found that even over the years when I go into these communities, no Belizean, no access to Belizean, nobody Belizean around, that still, you take me out of Belize, but you can't take Belize out of me, right? So I still look for areas of where we could gravitate and gather. And one of the things I did too, when I was in Atlanta doing my residency, is that I was involved with a Belize organization there. So I was actually the vice president. I couldn't take on being the president at the time, and this fellow Garbett, it was the president at the time. But we were there able to support, at the time of the Olympics, we were able to support some of the Belizean athletes that came for the Atlanta Olympics. So it was a pleasure doing that, and it was able to get with our folks, and we're able to support them and give them all the love that we need from and make sure they realize that we were there for them, you know? And so, no, I try to engage all the time. One of the things that I find difficult in my current job situation is that I work and do most of my stuff down in the Southwest. There's not a lot of Belizeans there. Most of the Belizeans live up this way. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to a fellow from Belize Freight, a guy named Dylan, just yesterday, and I was saying, listen, I have some stuff. I'm building 2 units in Belize, right, by Halover Bridge, right? And so I was telling him, I said, listen, how do I get this stuff? Can you come and pick up this stuff from my house? Because I got some stuff in the house I need to move by freight to Belize. He said, why usually we don't go south at the airport, you know? Usually because we placed it at Medley, we only operate not. I said, wait, but listen, but you say you have to work for a while. I said, this will work for a while because I have enough stuff. I have enough stuff I need to move, you know. So as part of the diaspora thing, you know, I said, let me just get on board and at least have another Gabb house in the. We have the whole family home in the Port Loyola area.
That would have been my next question. What are you investing in Belize?
Yeah. So no, I just wanted to build a place at least that we could have, you know, when we go back and visit and spend more time there. You know, I don't know if you ever retire. I don't know if that thing exists called retire. But as long as I am still have a brain or whatever, and I can still move, I have some health. I don't think there's a way one can just say I'm gonna just retire. So I put it this way. I can't say I'm just gonna retire there. Although I feel that way at some point, I need to just slow it down and bring it down. But I have 2 units, so I plan to at least have another unit that I could rent or have it available for other folks to come and visit.
Where Belize City you say this is again?
This is by Halover Bridge.
Halover Bridge.
Yeah, right, just north of the bridge. Yeah, just north of the bridge. So
you know where it is.
Yeah, you see.
You gotta pass it every day.
Yeah, you probably do. You probably see it every day.
No, I know. You see where I can find out?
Yeah. So I was talking to him and he said, yeah, we got you covered. So see, I think I will generate enough business for him to come and get my stuff. But generally. I try to come up here for functions. Most of the functions are up here in Broward. As you know, Ray lives this way up here too. And Ray has been very instrumental in doing a lot of stuff for Belizeans here and abroad. So and back in Belize. So I just think that you know, I try to get involved as much as I can and provide whatever support I can.
And if we got any difficulty, there's a little guy that's accompanying me named Ellison Flowers, right? And the guy that was sitting there, he owns Belize Ship Handlers, and they do shipping to and from this area to Belize. So since you're having difficulty, I'm just thought I would put in a plug for him.
Yeah, Ellison Flowers, okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. So, no, that's good to know, and it's good to have the resources to get this stuff down there, because you know, a lot of people had initially said hide because they do a lot of export business, but so we'll work things out, we'll get things sorted out.
So Belize, like you rightly said, Doc, you have left Belize, but Belize has never left you, and you're looking to go back one day and spend some quality time.
A lot more quality time, because there's a lot of, listen, every time I go to Belize, I see there's an opportunity to do something, you know? And I know some people are, I don't want to say negative, but they're always like, you sure you want to do that? Yeah, I don't want to do that. But there's, I mean, we could talk here for hours, but you go back and you see, oh, that's an opportunity to do some kind of service. It may not be totally in the medical field, but it could be a service to the community, and we have to develop those mindsets to look at things and see where can we help the best. And there is, regardless of who the politics of Belize, Belizeans in general want the best. In general, want the best for Belize. And if you're a true Belizean, you're truly there, you're going to put your mind and stuff to it. And I think if you look at things, we could write a list here and go back and say, how can this be accomplished? How can we make this accomplished? I have a lot of time doing the stuff I do. I do a lot of very difficult, high-risk cases. We could be consultants in many ways. We could, the expertise we develop over time and the exposure we have here can be transcended to some other good. So we could be consultants, we could be educators, we could go to the school system, and we could develop these things. I spoke to my sister-in-law also, Liz. She was Menzies, now Gabb. This is my brother's wife, and she just retired from J.P. Morgan Chase. Okay. And so she was a managing director for J.P. Morgan Chase. And so I told her multiple times, your line of work in finances and stuff like that can be put to goodwill. You know, there's lots of goodwill stuff you can do in Belize. And I was telling her, even if you want, you know, at some point, and probably my wife would not agree with me, because you don't want me to go for too long, but we could set up something on the second floor. Yeah. On the second floor, we could set up a consulting office, and you do your consulting office, you have your one room, and I have my other room, we do our consulting work. But she has a lot of time. They've been doing this long enough too, like 30 years out there doing consulting work, you know, as a finance person.
You know, listening to you saying that just now brings to mind that there are so many Belizeans out here who have occupied positions of influence over here in the United States of America. We should be proud of our Belizeans who came over here and excelled. And the feeling I get is that most of you want to find a way to give back something to the place of your birth and origin.
No, definitely, and that's exactly the mindset that we have. That we feel like we've, true that it's a quasi government school system, right? So we have the government involved and the religion involved. But regardless of what it was, you know, my sister-in-law, for instance, come from the Anglican school system, from the Methodist school system. But whatever we are, they have provided us with such a wealth of background. Yes, to be able to move from there and to go. Unfortunately, I wish you could just develop what you have and just give it directly back. But no, we had to travel around. We had, as you said, we had to take, a circuitous route. I haven't even told you about some of the struggles we had as a student, you know, as a student here to make money on the side. But I was hustling. You know, we were hustling to try to ensure that we were able to have food, have this, provide stuff. I got help in some ways, as I said, with tuition. I got help with boarding at different times, but I still had to go buy food.
Driving force inside of you that keeps propelling you forward.
I found that I had to. For instance, I just give you an instance. I have to work off the books, so to speak, right? Because I'm not an American citizen. I was not a green card holder or whatever. So through the church again, I found this guy that had jobs on the weekends building telephone booths. So he was building, you remember Mabel used to have these big telephone booths in New York, right? They used to use sheet metal, right? Sheet metal, and I had to learn this trade fast. And I got on the job training, and I was working every weekend, being paid under the table, you know, and working to figure out how to do that. I learned how to spot weld. I learned how to cut steel. I learned how to do all of these things very fast. And I did that for about maybe almost 2.5 years, hustling on the side. And the other job I had, I was taking care of this older lady. I think she was like 95 to 98, that period of time, about 3 years. I was doing that on some weekends where I would go by her house, clean her house, you know, and go cut her lawn. If there was snow, I shovel snow, you know. I did all of that to take care of her. And she used to always provide me with a beef stew every Saturday afternoon. She knew that her Earl was coming, and she used to say she had a black Earl and a white Earl, because there's a old white lady, Mrs. Sallows. Her name is Mrs. Florence Sallows. I still remember her. And her son-in-law, his name was Earl, and this black Earl used to come and take care of her place. Her husband had passed away. He was a big lawyer in New York. He had passed away. They still remain in Maplewood, New Jersey. And so she expected me to be there. even as a companion, to say, I'm there to help her, and I'm there to assist her. And she expected me to start making her beef stew, and so that I would have the beef stew ready, one of the best beef stew I ever tasted, you know.
You work hard for the beef stew, though.
I work hard for the beef stew. I hustle, you know.
Yeah.
I painted picket fences and stuff like that, you know, and just to hustle to make money. I cleaned the church. Used to be a sextant. I didn't even know what the word sextant mean. Yeah, I used to be the sextant of the church. I keep the church clean.
Clean up, man.
Also on the side of weekends and sometimes during the week, you know. But you do what you need to do to get where you want to go.
Would you say that what's important here is in life you have to have a dream and understand that the road to your dream is not necessarily a straight one?
No. It's very circuitous. So you go through all these different patterns to get to where you want to go. You're going to have barriers, man, I tell you. And then the barriers you can't stop. If that's what you want to get at, you don't make that a barrier. Just keep moving forward. You know, sometimes it's not always, some people don't always see that, you know. They say, like you disregard all the noise, the outside noise, but you just direct it, you know. And but you have to have a headset and a mindset to go forward, and don't worry about all the. You're gonna have barriers. Yeah. That's the thing in life, and I think that's life in general. But
the barriers should serve, Doc, in my mind, to make you stronger, because whenever you go over a barrier, you are stronger because of the experience you have gained by going over that barrier and confronting whatever situation you have.
Dealing with. And that happens at work too. You know, sometimes, you know, they say I always have a cool head on when bad things are happening. You know, patients bleeding out, and I'm like, you always stay cool. How do you stay cool? How do you stay cool when somebody's bleeding out? Yeah. You know? How? Because it's, I don't know if it's like military training, you know? How do you stay cool on a fire? Some people run, right? If somebody's shooting at you, what do? Either you duck, you run, but you try to defend yourself, right? So you learn the coping skills of knowing what you need to do, not what's going on, what you need to do to stop, to provide, you know. So you focus there, and when you stay focused like that, you're able to transcend most of the issues. Like, Gabb, you're still cool, yeah. So they call me a lot of times when there's problems, because they know you have the experience over time that you're able to take care of some of those problems. Just the other day, this was just early last week, the other physician called me in because there was somebody else on a backup that was supposed to be called, but they called me. I so happens to be available. So, but the patient had come in from another hospital and had significant bleeding. Started bleeding like 2 liters at home, 2 liters of blood, right? I mean, your blood supply is 4 to 5 liters, okay? So it's about 2 liters of blood at home. Okay, she delivered at another hospital, but this was the closest hospital that she was brought to. Lost consciousness at home, brought by the husband called EMS, the fire rescue service. They brought her to the hospital, and then she bled probably another liter there. She called me. We had to take her back and had to do a hysterectomy on her, and was able to save her life. But it's crazy, and you know, and the nurses were like, "Yeah, you're so cool, but you know what you need to do. I needed to take that uterus out to save her life, and so we were able to do that and save her. Yeah, the following day she was up in the bed, looking at you. One of the things with the diaspora program that I think is essential for Belizeans, number one, is to connect with sectors of the government in a better way. Mm-hmm. The government recently, and I've seen some efforts being done, with the government trying to connect with the diaspora and trying to find out how there are better ways of us trying to help. How can we help better at home? There have been statements made that some of the current workers or current people in Belize are not skilled enough, or they don't have the education enough to do that. I think there's avenues to do that, and I think they have to be not just talk, they have to be working sessions. How can we do better? I think we could go around the country and we could talk about a lot of these issues, and I brought up issues, and I've been to some of the diaspora meetings, so to speak, in here in Miami. But I want to see progress. The way we get progress is that we have to have select groups that look at particular areas of how we can help and how can we do a better job and see how we can pencil out or drill down into those areas of help. Because you could leave the meeting and say, yeah, I'm just so inspired, I'm so ready to do this. Yes, so that next step is crucial to deciding how do we get down into the bare knuckles and say, what does it take? How do we get to where we need to go? And I think that's the next step that we need to follow through with. And I see some efforts from the government, current government, to be engaging with that. And I even spoke to Lin Young, because I went to school with Lin. Lin was a class or two above me at Belize Technical College at Sixth Form. And I spoke to Lin, too, directly about, yes, he said, Gab, you have a lot of ideas. But I said, all right, we have to start cultivating ways of how we put that all together to make it happen. And I think those are the steps I think it's a big part of what the steps are. There's a lot of people with great ideas out here that have experienced different experiences and come to them. And we also have to make it easier. I know this is, we have this good, call it the DRIP program, right? To get returnees to come back. But even when you work through the DRIP program, it's not so easy.
I've heard that.
No, I'm telling you, I was on the phone. I hate to talk about anything negative, but I think there's opportunities, right?
Well, we're talking about with a view of getting it improved.
Right. So just an example is I got on the phone. I did the application from January. Nobody picked up in D.C. It was supposed to be scanned to an email in D.C., but nobody picked up on it. So I called him back, and I don't know, 2 months ago maybe? It's like maybe 2 months. And I said, listen, where do I need to send this to? Because I'm not getting any response. And I sent this a long time ago. And so they said, send it to like Belmopan, somewhere in Belmopan. I saw another email. So I scanned it, got an immediate response to say they're going to work on it, right? So, all right, I said they're working on it. No, 6 weeks later, I check up on it. And he said, well, not ready yet or whatever, but you'll hear back from us. So I called him the other day because, unfortunately, one of the shipments prematurely left and gone down there. It was supposed to be consolidated, but anyway, prematurely left. So now I have stuff that's down there at the port that need to be cleared from the port. However, the program, I expect them to cover whatever the $20,000 duty-free benefit that it has. So I called the lady, one of the ladies from responded and said, we could push this through and get this done, but who do I need to talk to? I said, push this to get the application completed, right? I said, somebody in Belmopan. No, I'm calling this person in Belmopan. There's nobody there. I found out later, she said, oh, she left for lunch. Then I called back again. No, she should be back from lunch. Oh, she's not working today. So I said, okay, who can I speak to? Oh, she's the only one you could speak to. So I said, all right, so what should I do next? So, well, you're going to hear back from us. So, all right, the following day I called back. I found out. I said, all right, how can I get it? Well, we're going to have it ready. This girl, I can't remember. I'd like to put a plug in for her, but she was good. But anyway, she said, listen, we're going to have this thing in Belmopan, but you have to pick it up in Belmopan. I said, no, I did in Miami. How do I pick it up in Belmopan? I said, could you scan it to me? Because that's the way we work. I would never be in medical school if I had to go pick up an application somewhere else. They scan, they use electronics, right? So I said, all right, could you scan it to me? Well, I don't know if that's going to work because you need to have the original copy. I said, well, how is that going to work if I need the original copy and I'm not there? And so anyway, so eventually she scanned it to me, and I sent it to the custom broker. I said, custom broker, can you use it? He said, no problem. I'll work this out. I'll work this out. But what I'm saying, I shouldn't be having to go through all those twists and bends. We have other things in life to do too, Yeah.
So you think that could be solved by having a central diaspora office in Belize that you send your request to, and they take care of all
and the girl
your stuff?
Say that they're working on things to make it better. And so that was obviously a thing. But no, this is an example. But I know there's there's things that need to be worked out. Even to get my Belize passport, it took forever. You know, and then I
Putting in a new passport system.
Not only that, like I had to pull string to find out if the guy is there, so that I could go pick up my passport.
We got a lot of things to change.
No, just managerially, there are things that we can do, but we need to understand what are the roadblocks, what are the things that are keeping us from becoming better at it. And I don't think it's unique to Belize, but what I'm saying is there are things that can be improved, certainly, and what do we need to do to make it better? Yeah.
And I think that's your message to Belizeans,
exactly.
How to make it better.
Yeah.
Okay, Doc, it's been a wonderful privilege and pleasure to talk to you. I hope to meet you again when I come around this area next time, you know. I hope to see you resettled in Belize, in that condo by the Halover Bridge.
Yeah, I'd love to be hanging out and watching the Caribbean Sea from there. Yeah.
And I'm sure our medical people in Belize can do with some of your expertise as well.
I'm willing to help. You know, as I said, I don't like push myself on anybody, but certainly I'd love to be able to be of help.
The common feeling that unites all of us in the diaspora, back home, and so is love of our country. We all love our country, love the jewel.
Yeah, I love the jewel. No, I can't say more. Every time I go to Belize, too, I find new places in Belize. Even, you know, as we run around as kids, we think we conquered all. There's a lot of bright and beautiful places in Belize to visit and to explore. There's lots of things to explore still, you know?
Well, Doc, at Love FM and at Love TV, we usually sum it up in one phrase because, you know, we have choices in life. But when we choose to love, that's the most important choice you could ever make. And so we are always grateful for people who choose to love the jewel, who choose to love themselves, who choose to love God, who choose to love their nation and their country and to do what they can to build our country. And so because we have all chosen to love, we say it in this way, Doc. This is how we say it. Belize and beyond, thanks for choosing love.
Thank you. Thank you.
Belize Watch. Knowledge of the past, impacting the present, building the future.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel you come from.